Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Eddie Hearn has stated that Filip Hrgovic versus Michael Hunter could take place on Dillian Whyte's undercard, which could be in the US this summer, or possibly even Hrgovic's home country of Croatia. Now, of course, this would be an eliminator for Anthony Joshua's IBF world title. The interesting thing about AJ's world titles is he has a WBA mandatory that should come very soon, even though he hasn't had one since 2018. I mean, the IBF are looking to line up their next mandatory and ordering eliminators, and the WBA hasn't had a mandatory since 2018, so that's interesting. Good for Undisputed, of course, but still, it is interesting. I guess that the mandatory will be decided between Bogdan Dinu and Daniel Dubois for the WBA regular championship, which is held by Trevor Bryan. So the mandatory is being lined up for the WBA regular champion, and perhaps then they get a shot at the super champion, which is AJ. I guess that deals with how Undisputed will take place for 2021, with all of the belts on the line. But anyway, this IBF eliminator between Filip Hrgovic and Michael Hunter. Now this is a great fight. I think that this is one we've all wanted to see because they are two fighters who both find it difficult to get fights because they're just a nightmare. Who wants to face Filip Hrgovic? The top guys. I mean, who wants to risk their position, their ranking within a governing body, just to fight Filip Hrgovic, who's a monster? And the same applies for Michael Hunter. So what better way to deal with that than fighting one another? Eddie Hearn recently revealed that he did reach out to Michael Hunter to make a fight with Filip Hrgovic, but he wasn't interested. He never even came back with a counter offer. Now, of course, he gets more of an opportunity by fighting Filip Hrgovic in an IBF eliminator because there's more on the line. And it is unfortunate the situation Michael Hunter has been in because he's a good talent and he's a great addition to the heavyweight division, but he hasn't found it easy getting fights, and especially since the Alexander Povetkin fight, he has been extremely inactive. I mean, he did have a fight, but no one really knew that it was happening because he just can't get those big fights, so against Filip Hrgovic that gives him a good opportunity. But again, he's in the situation where it's risk versus reward. Does he fight him for less money than he can get if it is an eliminator? And it's not just about the money, it's about the opportunity also. So if he wins, he is then mandatory to Anthony Joshua. He's sitting pretty. I mean, he can go and fight whoever he wants in the meantime until he gets his shot. As long as he keeps winning, then he has that mandatory status. He's guaranteed a fight with either AJ or Tyson Fury. Depends who wins that Undisputed fight and whether the belts do actually get taken apart, because he could end up fighting in a vacant world title fight, given we don't know what happens after Undisputed. And considering what has happened with the IBF belt in the past, especially after Fury won it and he couldn't defend it because he must fight Vladimir Klitschko again. I mean, obviously he didn't, but he was ordered to fight his mandatory. Of course, he had a contract to give Klitschko the rematch, so they stripped him. I mean, there is all the possibility in the world that that could happen after Undisputed. Not guaranteed. I would imagine they have some kind of deal, and the IBF mandatory likely won't come until next year. At least we would hope for Undisputed anyway, but still, that's the way it could go. It could be a mandatory fight against Tyson Fury or AJ, or it could be a vacant world title fight. And that's a great opportunity for Michael Hunter to become a world champion. One interesting thing I find though, is these guys are looking to fight on the undercard of Dillian Whyte. Now, Dillian Whyte is WBC interim world champion, which is a great achievement, but he does want to become a world champion and have his world title opportunity that he is long overdue. So Dillian Whyte is going to be fighting as main event against we don't know who just yet, but there will be an eliminator for a world title on the undercard, and the winner of that fight could still get a world title opportunity before Dillian Whyte. I don't see the logic in that. I mean, it's unfortunate because obviously Dillian Whyte has put his faith in the WBC, and it's not the IBF's fault, but it is just one of them things, politics again. I'm at that stage now where I'm just thinking kind of like, don't give anyone an opportunity before Dillian Whyte, but I know that's not going to happen. If anyone deserves it, it is Dillian Whyte. Usyk is WBO mandatory going to fight Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is in that position based off of merit and good wins, fair enough to him, but Usyk was a cruiserweight coming up, yet again he still could get his world title opportunity before Dillian Whyte. I just hope that Whyte gets his opportunity next year, and I don't know who he's going to be fighting or where he's going to be fighting. They are talking about the US, so I would imagine that that is where Dillian Whyte goes. But Croatia is a possibility. There is also the possibility they go back to Gibraltar. Dillian Whyte expressed an interest in doing that. So wherever the fight takes place, it will be a good fight for Dillian Whyte to be in. He's in a great position, but he's not going to sit on that, even though he did have that slip up against Alexander Povetkin, but I don't think that will discourage Dillian Whyte, even though it should, from taking top challenges, because he needs to save something in the tank for that opportunity when it comes. He doesn't want to give his best to these fights that are non-world title fights. He's done that already. He's proven himself. He's taken tough fights back to back. He has the experience. Now it's time to put it to the test in a world title opportunity. So he could fight Andy Ruiz Jr. next. I mean, he has a comeback on May 1st, but that's a tough fight again. And it is a big risk. It does risk his position once again at getting a world title chance. And there is Deontay Wilder, who is back in training and getting ready for his comeback. Again, we don't know who he is going to be facing in his comeback fight. He's not going to face Dillian Whyte off of inactivity and a defeat. So I don't think we can take Deontay Wilder seriously in talks with Dillian Whyte Ruiz until he has had his comeback. But there are definitely fights on the table that Dillian Whyte could take, perhaps a rematch with Joseph Parker if he beats Chisora, or maybe even a trilogy with Chisora if he beats Joseph Parker. Now that's an interesting fight for later in the year. I'm really interested to see the differences in Joseph Parker because I think that he will be a different fighter going into the fight with Chisora. If he's not, then he's going to lose. I mean, he needs to show a lot more than he did in his last performance against Junior Farr. I do like the fact that Joseph Parker is being a bit more active now because I don't think that he has been previously in his career. I mean, going from Junior Farr to Chisora, then perhaps another fight later in the year, depending on the outcome of May 1st, which is coming up. We need to do a separate video about that, especially with Fight Week coming up next week. So we have that fight coming up. It's going to be very exciting to see this new, improved, I hope, Joseph Parker. And Chisora always brings value for money, but keep an eye on the winner of that fight because we could eventually see the winner of that one going in with Dillian Whyte. Now that's a good fight. It's a good fight in between. It's going to be a big fight no matter who wins because no matter what way you look at it, it is a rematch, a trilogy if Chisora is able to get the victory. So it's going to be a big fight for Dillian Whyte and he would be favourite going in against either of those two. I really do think though that we can expect to see a war on May 1st. I don't really expect anything other. Chisora is going to make him fight that way. He can try and box if he wants to. He can try and outbox him, outpoint him, and all of that. But Chisora is going to edge closer and closer as the fight goes on. So at some point, Joseph Parker is going to have to stand there and trade with him. Show that dog that he has. He's got a great chin, good power, good speed. Balance isn't brilliant, but those are things he will be working on with Andy Lee, his new coach. So it's exciting to see the new and improved Joseph Parker. I hope that's what we do see on May 1st. So guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Filip Hrgovic versus Michael Hunter, likely or possibly on the undercard of Dillian Whyte's next show. Guys, drop your thoughts on this in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.